Remember how I made that video recently about how the job numbers just don't make sense and how they were saying, well, January had 11,000, but February had 63,000? Well, unfortunately, I was right, and those job numbers are actually not true. In fact, U.S. payrolls unexpectedly fell by 92,000 in February. Unemployment rate rises to 4.4%. So non-farm payrolls in February actually fell by 92,000 compared with the estimate for 50,000 and below the downwardly revised January total of 126,000. So this is the third time in 5 months that we have actually lost jobs more than we have added jobs. Even healthcare, which is supposed to be one of the safest sectors, lost 28,000 jobs due largely to a strike. Now, wages, little good news from this is some wages rose more than expected. Average hourly earnings increased 0.4% for the month and 3.8% from a year ago, both 0.1 percentage point above forecast. So not by a lot, but it's something. So we have this monthly job creation chart here on CNBC. This is from January 2022 to February 2026. So a nice sample size here, and you can compare what's been going on since 2022. We've pretty much added jobs, usually a few 100,000 every month, until we started getting closer to 2025. Now, as soon as we hit 2025, boom, minus 48,000, 42,000, 67, 108, 13,000, lost 20,000 last June. We lost 70,000 last August. We lost over 100,000 back in October. We lost 17,000 in December, and now in February, we lost 92,000 jobs. They're over here saying, wow, we added more than expected jobs in February, and literally 2 days later after that news comes out, it's actually way worse than we thought. So for unemployment has been steadily rising basically since 2023 around this time. So basically over the past 3 full years, unemployment has been rising. It rose up to 4.6% in November, went down a little bit to 4.3%. Now it's back up to 4.4%. Now, if you look at the growth in average hourly earnings, it sounds good. Oh, it's gone up 0.1% in the past month or whatever. But if you zoom out and you look over the past few years, you realize that that's just a drop in the bucket, and we have a long way to go to get the wages going up at the rate that they actually should. You can see over the past 5 years or so, or the past 4 years, it's actually just been going down, the rate of growth. So the rate of growth went up from January to February, but if you're just going by that, you might be like, oh wow, that's good news. It's really not, because if you zoom out, it's really just trending straight downward. So information services have been hit pretty hard, and they are down 11,000 jobs as part of a 12-month trend. Manufacturing saw a loss of 12,000 despite tariffs aimed at reshoring jobs from overseas, so it's not helping yet, in other words. Federal government employment has fell off 10,000 for the month. Transportation and warehousing hasn't been safe either. They've been reduced by 11,000. Social assistance is actually up 9,000, so there's a little bit of good news. Also, the average duration of unemployment is now at 25.7 weeks, which is the longest since December 2021. Now, there is some news that's not entirely terrible. They did say that both the services and manufacturing sectors are expanding. Consumers, it says, have held up fairly well, but there's signs that it's mostly higher income earners that are doing the spending. So that really doesn't help the majority. So if you actually look at this data as of January 9th, 2026 from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the ones that we're adding were financial activities, wholesale trade, retail trade, and utilities. Everything else has been down. We actually have a pretty rough survey at the very bottom of this report here, talking about how the economic picture might actually be worse than what is being reported throughout this article. So when they actually survey households directly, which they use to also calculate an unemployment rate, the portion of the report indicated a drop of 185,000 in those reporting at work and a rise of 203,000 in the unemployment level. The labor force participation rate edged lower to 62%, its lowest since December 2021. So what this last line actually means is that a smaller percentage of Americans are actually working or even looking for work. In other words, the worker discouragement is getting higher, and it's the highest since December 2021. We're at almost 40% of Americans, according to this report, that working age Americans are either not getting work, or they're not even looking for work, or in general just are not participating in the labor force at all. So from the Bureau of Labor Statistics official report here, so you can see the economic news release, which was Friday, March 6th, the number of people not in the labor force who currently want a job changed little. So there's 6 million people that are of working age that apparently just don't want a job, or they're not looking for a job. And they don't count that towards unemployment. Another weird thing about this, though, is they're saying that total non-farm payroll employment edged down to 92,000 in February, which is what we just found out, right? Okay, well, following an increase in January of 126,000. But yet ADP reported that we had 11,000 additions in January, but they just cover private sector jobs. And then they're saying that private companies added 63,000 jobs in February, when BLS is saying we lost 92,000. So you can see why the public seems to have a problem trusting these numbers at all, especially when they first come out, and if they even seem positive in the beginning, because they just know that revisions are probably coming, and these revisions typically look much worse than the initial report.